In 1954, one of the most debated and protested wars had begun, the Vietnam War. This war stemmed through the Cold War, which was between the Communist Soviet Union and the capitalist United States. The conflict of the Vietnam War would only intensify the problem between these two powerhouses of nations. With the United States being with the South Vietnam and the Soviet Union being with the North Vietnam, this war would kill more than 3 million people. The war spanned 2 decades, inflicting pain and turmoil amongst the citizens of several nations. As a result of this great conflict, there was political, social, and military upheaval that forever changed the landscape of our world. The passage of time from the beginning to the end of the war is a dramatic one, covering the many aspects of human life and ethical dilemmas. Out of this war, the Viet Cong was one of the toughest regimes to ever face the United States and South Vietnam during this war. This regime used guerrilla warfare to fight their battles, which meant ambush, terrorism, and sabotage. With the number of U.S. troops in Vietnam peaking at 543,000 in April 1969, anti-war Semitism in the U.S. grows stronger as the troop numbers increase. Agent Orange was not the only chemical used in the Vietnam War. There was also napalm. Napalm is a jelly-like substance that, when ignited, sticks to anything and burns up to 10 minutes. The effects of napalm on the human body were unbearably painful and always caused death. Another famous tactic used during the Vietnam War was U.S. airplane bombings. One of the famous campaigns in particular was the Rolling Thunder. This operation became the most intense ground battle in the whole Cold War. Rise to the public. Bombarded by horrific images of the war on their televisions, Americans on the home front turned against the war as well. Even soldiers at this time were questioning their own leaders and why the United States was keeping them over there. The later years of the war increased physical and psychological irritation among American soldiers, both volunteers and draftees, including drug use, post-traumatic stress disorder, mutinies, and attacks by soldiers against officers and non-commissioned officers. This caused outrage throughout the United States and caused violent protests. A misconception about protests during the war is that protesters were against soldiers and were given this myth by conservative politicians. While 3 million were wounded and another 12 million became refugees. Warfare had demolished the country's infrastructure and economy, and reconstruction proceeded slowly. By the looks of it, this war took more than we gained.
But you got to realize you're fighting in 102, 103 degree weather. It's always hot. You're getting off a helicopter in a clearing. It may be a 100-yard clearing before you hit the tree line. It may be 50-yard clearing before you hit the tree line. But you got to realize going in, you're already nervous, upset. You're shaking like you got Parkinson's because you're getting ready to get off a plane, and the enemy might be right in that tree line and it's going to shoot at you. You don't know. So your adrenaline is up and you're already sweating. You got a 70-pound bag on your back, about 10 canteens of water you want to carry with you, your weapon and ammunition. You hop off the helicopter. Sometimes they'll land it. Sometimes it's hover. You jump off and you start running. Now you're running to the tree line in the heat. Now, fortunately, if they're not shooting at you, you get to that tree line, but you still got to keep moving. So all that alone, we hadn't even talked about nobody shooting at you. We're just talking about getting off a helicopter and getting to the woods. And then if you get into a firefight down in there, at that particular time, as Dan was saying, then it's, well, you said it was organized chaos. I think at times it was just chaos. I had a radio man talking to artillery to bring in artillery fire, and talking to gunships to bring in fire from helicopters, anybody who could shoot. You're trying to get to shoot at the enemy wherever they were located, to try to get the fire off of you. Sometimes it was so heavy, you stayed there and fought, but you weren't moving forward. And of course, your commander, mine was Colonel Bullen. I was the 3rd Brigade, the 82nd Airborne. Wasn't Marine, but I was airborne. And our commander, General Bullen at the time, was in a helicopter way up there. His call sign was Night Rider. He said mine was Comanche, Apache 6. Apache 6 is Night Rider. How's it going? Now I'm thinking, I'm down here ducking, trying to talk to somebody about getting out of this fight, and I got to.
The emotional turmoil and damage done to the people that were in this war and surrounded is infinite. The gruesome and detailed stories of these people give of their experiences of the war are horrible. Many returning veterans face negative reactions from both opponents of the war, who viewed them as having killed innocent civilians, and its supporters who saw them as having lost the war. Along with physical damage, including the effects of exposure to their toxic pesticide, Agent Orange, millions of gallons of which had been dumped by U.S. planes on the defense forest of Vietnam. This war will go down as the biggest divide the United States has ever faced since the Civil War.